Welcome to Whiskey Gaming, and this is my late review of Still Wakes the Deep. I played it on the Xbox Series X. It's also available on the Series S, PS5, and PC. So in Still Wakes the Deep, you play as Cameron McCleary, aka Kaz. Like, literally everybody calls him Kaz. You don't even find out his name's Cameron McCleary until near the end. But he's a Scotsman working on a Scottish oil derrick with a bunch of other Scottish folk. And I point that out because, honestly, I just find that a little unique. You don't see a lot of that. Or at least I can't think of a ton of Scottish representation in video game, which I'm good with. I like it. I like having it there. That being said, on a really shitty day of yours when you just got canned and you're about to leave, well, as I like to say, shit goes sideways. The drill hits something and, well, it just leads to a catastrophic event with this weird glowing thing coming up out of the ocean that creates fleshy puddles of people. Not quite puddles, but messes of people in ceilings, and lets loose some horrific creatures upon the oil derrick. You, along with some of your friends, have to try and survive. So let's get into the audio. And the first thing I'm gonna say is I like the music. I think the voiceover work is well done, and I think the sound effects are very well done. Now, the reason I'm kind of breezing through those things is while they all sound good, the audio design is good, although I did hit a few points where it was a bit staticky. I don't know why, but it was only like once later in the game. And I really do love the voiceover work, and I love the Scottish accents as well as the Scottish slang, and apparently you can play this game in Gaelic, which I didn't even attempt. I will say with some of the Scottish slang, you do need the subtitles on for translation unless you're Scottish, and you probably know what that slang means. I do not. And I think the music really adds to everything. But the reason I kind of breeze through that is because this game has poor audio mixing in my opinion, at least on the Xbox Series X. I absolutely had to throw on my headphones and crank them up for it to sound normal. Running it through my speakers like I run most games, I would have had to crank them up to a ridiculous volume, and I just didn't feel like doing that, so I went headphones. And that's with everything preset to like the max volume in the settings. So that's kind of shit. Not that it destroys the game, it's just kind of weird. Let's move on to the gameplay mechanics and whatnot, and this is a first-person walking simulator. I only say that because there was literally an achievement called Walking Simulator. It is very narrative-driven. I wouldn't say puzzle-driven. All of the puzzles are very rudimentary, if you can even call them puzzles. It's more of go here, click this. Maybe do these things in a specific order. Like, it's not challenging in the slightest if you were going to talk about puzzles. It is also slightly horror-ish, or at least meant to be horror-ish. I never felt particularly scared. I don't think it did a good job with horror, just plain and simple. I've got to say that. I at no point in time really felt scared of the creatures or what was going on. There were a few moments that like played on personal real life phobias of mine, but those are just mine and unique to me. And if you don't have those, then you're not gonna really be affected by those. And they never affected me massively because if you die, there's no huge consequences. This game does have the whole run, hide, or die elements. They show you lockers to hide in, but I think I hid in exactly the tutorial locker and one other locker. And it turns out I really didn't even need to hide in that second locker that I hid in. But there are areas where you need to crouch under so that you can avoid the enemy, as well as one of the less functional stealth mechanics, which is throwing items. For the most part, it works, but I had multiple times where the item I threw bounced off, I don't know, hard air, apparently. Like, it didn't hit shit, there was nothing for it to hit, but it would hit just the air and bounce back and make a noise and attract the creature to there instead of away from me. It didn't happen every time, but it happened enough times to be annoying. And then, of course, you run to get away from enemies every now and then because, you know, you gotta have a chase sequence. Overall, the gameplay mechanics and whatnot, though, are rudimentary. They work well enough, and mostly they get you from point to point in the story, getting you to character to event to event. Let's get on to the controls, and I don't have any complaints with the controls. I felt that the controls worked very well. So we'll move on to the graphics and visuals, which aren't necessarily the best thing I've ever seen. This isn't a AAA game, so I'm not always expecting that. But they are good, and I actually really enjoyed more the design and the atmosphere that they build. I think the characters are all well designed, and they all look good enough. They're just not necessarily the best looking you're ever gonna see, but they look good. I'm not gonna sit there and just fully shit on that. But like I've said in the past, I think we're at a point in time where even the stuff that isn't like mind-shattering is still good looking. I think this game, though, the design matters more. I think the oil rig feels really good when you're first walking around and getting to see like the crew cabins and the effort they put in to make them unique to each of the characters, as well as unique to you, and just the crew areas. I think they did an awesome job with that because they make it feel homey and lived in. And then when you're out on the deck walking about, like, it feels like you would imagine working on an oil derrick would. They just do a great job capturing that vibe. And then when it comes to the creatures and whatnot, I feel like it was fairly heavily influenced by certain elements of John Carpenter's The Thing, which is not a bad thing. But I overall thought they did a good job with that. I think the creature design is creepy, gross, and exactly what you're expecting, especially when you start seeing the other stuff going around on the rig. The fleshy masses that are attached to walls and ceilings and floors and so on. And as this thing that's coming up out of the ocean is like spreading, I think all of that is well designed. Overall, graphically, I am happy with the game. Like I said, not the greatest thing I've ever seen, but it's good looking all the same. Now, let's get into the wrap up. And while I don't have any major complaints with this game, it just didn't necessarily pull me in. A lot of the things were just painfully predictable, and things played out exactly how I expected. Unfortunately, I was left with a very meh experience. In all reality, it's not a super long game. I just had struggles committing to playing this game and getting it beaten as quickly as I could. So like I said, I don't have anything really truly negative to lay against this game other than the fact that it didn't pull me in. And for me, I could comfortably say, had I never played this game, my life would be no less complete than it is. And that's unfortunate because I think these guys have a bright future and I'd like to see them do more. I would just like to see them do something a little less generic feeling, I guess. I would have liked this to take a different turn, but I saw where everything was going very quickly and it ended exactly like I expected from damn near the beginning. So overall, it's kind of just hard to recommend this game. Again, not that it's bad, it's just a very meh experience overall. Okay, in the comments down below, why don't you tell me who's your favorite Scottish actor, just for the shits and gigs of it. And as always, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button. If you like what I'm doing in general, share and subscribe. Have a good one.